This is Culture, Communication, and Brand Moments with Shelby Long, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Culture, Communication, and Brand Moments is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Shelby Long.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast today. I'm Shelby Long. I'm with Business Dynamics and the Strategic Advisor Board. And I love using a podcast as a vehicle to get more information out to entrepreneurs about ways that they can develop business or ways that they can transition their business to just inspire you to think about business differently and inspire you to think about your genius differently. So the Genius Entrepreneur podcast is used to be able to expose some of these stories to you. Last week, I met Deane Gyllenhaal, and he has such an interesting story, and I'm excited to learn a little bit more about his background and his transition into executive coaching. So today, we're going to talk with Deane Gyllenhaal with Intelligent Leadership Executive Coaching, and I'm excited that you're here to join us today, Deane, to tell us about your business.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Deane, I know a little bit about your background. You've been in the executive coaching space the last couple months. Can you give us kind of the 30,000-foot overview of you and your background and experience before you get into coaching?
Sure. I'll start current and go backwards. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
In May, I launched a business. It's a franchise opportunity with Intelligent Leadership Executive Coaching. To get there, I needed to go through a number of training and certifications to use some proprietary methodology which was developed by a gentleman named John Mattone. He owns John Mattone Global, and he's one of the leading executive coaching brands in the country.
Sure.
So I'm up and running, off to a good start. Prior to that, and this is the interesting part, I spent over 30 years in investment management. I worked for 5 different large firms. The last 2 firms I was with, I played a senior management role. The most recent, I was at a firm where I ran a very highly educated, successful investment management team. Over the course of that time, we were very successful in terms of growing our assets and contributing to the success of the organization. I had made a decision maybe 2 years ago that I wanted to play my quote unquote back nine slightly differently. Like I said, I've been in the industry for over 30 years for lots of different reasons, family reasons, burnout, all the things you can hear about. I took a very measured approach to figure out what I wanted to do. Now, in my roles in investment management as a senior leader, I had the opportunity to participate in many of these assessments and workshops and best execution workshops and
Sure.
everything that you would want from a large organization to prepare me as a leader and a manager. I really love that. It got me outside my inbox. Now, outside of work, I've always been a team athlete from high school through college. And once I got to a point where my daughters were old enough, I started coaching girls lacrosse. And that is a function of how I grew up playing team sports. I got certified as a coach, ran a league for 9 years. And that was kind of my personal passion outside of work, was doing that, running this league, coaching these kids, seeing progression from, first grade through 8th grade on into high school. I track some of these kids in the paper just to see how they're doing. So you take my professional experience and my personal experience and you put it together, this executive coaching kind of fit, from who I was as a person. So that's what kind of drove me to take on this challenge, to take on this business.
Absolutely. That's interesting because you were in the financial world for so many years, but then you almost transitioned in the financial roles to those leadership positions. So
Right.
That team and team development and leadership is all starting to come out. And being an executive coach myself and a business coach myself, I see the importance and especially the content that you're going to have with your background in your coaching and the one-on-one and working as a team and the communication strategies and the synergy, all of those concepts are so important when it comes to executive coaching. So it seems to me like a pretty good match.
Yeah, I agree. And the Baton methodology that I'm licensed to use is time proven and successful.
Mm-hmm.
However, on my old roles, playing the senior leadership roles, I have lots of really interesting stories, different types of, I've lived through many different market environments, 2008, 2009, COVID, things before that. So I've seen how organizations operate under tight resources or market shocks. People have to make decisions. Some of the decisions I made, weren't comfortable decisions. But in the end, what got me out of bed was the growth of the organization. So, when I started at my most recent firm, I grew the team from 4 individuals to 13. Our products grew from 35 to 170, and the assets we're responsible grew from 200 billion to 900 billion. So that's an 8-year span of very highly successful functioning team. It was a great experience for me. And, at the end of it, and I decided that I wanted to do something different, something more meaningful, help people in a more meaningful way. I took those experiences and then, fell into this leadership position, coaching position.
Absolutely. It's seems to be you felt comfortable with that. It's all part of your experience and your background. I would call that your genius. It's your intuition, right? Like it's just things that you know how to do and you've always known how to do. And now it's just applying that in a different way. And I mean, particularly it's so interesting because you've been in the financial sector through the biggest challenges that we know in our lifetime, right? The 2008 crash, and then which had a dramatic effect on the economy, and then COVID, which had the other major effect on the economy. And you've seen your experience in leading teams through that and leading organizational teams through that. I would imagine that experience gives you such a nice background for that executive coaching to be nimble and flexible and understand that it's not just the one solution, that you're going to have to flex and move. So I think that's, Can you talk about, let's talk about 2008. 2008 was such a surprise to many, not to some, but it was a surprise to many. It was a huge shock to the market. Can you tell a story from that time? Well,
those two scenarios, 2008 and COVID, were totally different. So 2008, 2009, we're watching this market drop and seeing how officials reacted and what the market was doing was totally out of our control. Okay, so we had to basically respond, and we had to manage our assets in the most efficient way for the client in this time of upheaval. So the focus was let's manage the mandate, do the best for our clients, pay attention to the marketplace, because we don't know what's going on, but we can see what's happening after the fact. Let's just stay the course. Where in COVID, it was different. They shut the economy down. Our organization put some policies into place, and it was more related to personnel. Obviously, there was a little bit of a market hiccup there in that March, but it came back. So that was more hands-on. Let's manage, instead of managing our client assets, we're managing our team, and what's the most effective way to do that. So, we made the decision as an organization to, split certain groups up into 3 different teams, in the office, out of the office, in a rotation. The third team was put to a separate location and stayed there. So there's a lot of details around that I won't get into now, but trying to manage that remotely was a big shift for our firm. And our goal was to make sure that a certain amount of our staff was plugged into our company servers. And that was important when you're managing money and you're trading on the markets. You don't want to have a significant trade, not get put through if you're trading off a $50 modem at home and its power goes out.
Right.
So, we had to take that into account. I think we did a really good job of managing the teams around that, and obviously getting feedback from the individuals that had experienced that over a 1.5 year, 2 year period to come up with a sort of hybrid plan once COVID restrictions were released.
Yeah. It's so challenging. I worked a lot in business culture. I talk a lot about business culture, and maintaining sounds like the teams and having those self-sustaining teams was a really good way to manage that, and kept the employees managed and engaged during a time that was so unknown. So
right. And there were individuals that wanted to be at home, and there were individuals that wanted to be in office, and some wanted both. So trying to figure all that out, was a challenge. And in the end, we came up with a hybrid program that worked, and we didn't miss a beat. Our business continued on successfully.
That's great. And I think that experience is so important for your position now, so you can help lead other executives through those challenges, because those challenges aren't going to disappear. Hopefully we won't have another 2008 or COVID happen, but we've got to be prepared for that. So I think that's
right. And importantly, I think the net result here is a change the culture of the firm.
Yep.
So many firms have that. There's a significant change in culture for Wall Street in general, but any other organization out there, their culture is changing. And myself now, as an executive coach, I have a program that helps measure that.
Yeah.
So we have a cultural assessment workshop that companies can take, so that individual leaders within the corporation can understand what exactly is going on with the staff and how are they thinking about it, because it's a different culture now.
Yeah, totally different culture, different needs, different consumer environment, different employee environments, different stresses and all sorts. So that's so critical, and to have a solid understanding of what that is before you go in and develop your plans. I think that's a really interesting way to go about that. So Deane, tell me a little more about what do you envision for your coaching? Yes, you have all the tools and you've signed on and you've trained. Where do you envision yourself now going with your business?
Well, let me talk about the market environment for leadership coaching, and then I'll talk a little bit about the strategy that I'm employing right now. So according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there's about 30 million managers in corporate America today, right? And less than 40% of them have actually had any leadership training, and less than a quarter of them ever have had a coach. So that says a lot about the managers and leaders in corporate America. There's lots of people out there that could use services like this. Okay. And I'm going to equate it to, you have a coach at the gym. You might have a lifestyle coach. You might have a therapist. People look to others from the outside to help them but get better internally. A leadership coach is just that, but it's for your professional environment. Okay. So there's a lot of opportunities for coaches like myself, and there's a lot of opportunities for recipients of coaching to engage. Number two, what I've discovered is, my goal is to coach leaders and emerging leaders to sharpen their leadership skill set, with the idea of, adjusting corporate culture, and also ultimately crystallizing the legacy of themselves as a leader. Okay. And leadership training can be carried across jobs. It can be carried into your family, it can carry it into your community. Absolutely. So it's not just relegated to, Monday morning sitting down at, 8:30 in the morning. Here I am. I'm this newly trained leader. This you can use across any organization and any aspect of life.
Right. Because it all goes down to your confidence and your participation and your presence, and so much of that is important. Yeah. A lot of synergy with where you're at and what I do. So I also am in the leadership culture space. I help people coach entrepreneurs to put their business ideas together. So there's a lot of synergy there. And talking to you really makes me want to, I still teach. I teach at the college level, and I teach business culture, and I teach systems and all those things. And it's so fun to talk to somebody who's experienced it and made a job out of it. So I appreciate that. It makes me want to kind of get into the same space too. So
yeah, it's been fun. It's been interesting. I get to meet a lot of really interesting people and understand there's so many different challenges out there. But again, assessing who you are, and one of the differentiators with this model is assessing who you are on the inside, and how you project yourself to those around you. So really understanding that, our assessment tools help figure that out and guide you down a path of improvement. So, one of the quotes that we use as coaches within this organization is, prognosis without diagnosis is malpractice. So you really want to understand who you are, how you come across as a leader externally, and, understand your gifts and gaps and focus on those and adjust them so that you portray yourself as a better leader.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Deane, I have a question for you about your background and your influence. Were you surrounded by entrepreneurs? Was there a influence that you had to step out and dip your toes into the entrepreneur journey, or was there a moment where you were just ready to, 30 years in the financial industry and investment industry, that's a long time. So of course, maybe a transition was necessary, but stepping into entrepreneurship isn't something that a lot of people typically do. So
honestly, entrepreneurship was not on the front burner for me over my career. It really was later in my career where I decided that, what can I do? I was working 12-hour days for 8 years and missing half my vacation. I needed something that kind of unwound me a little bit, something that was more meaningful to people. So I think this whole coaching aspect and the leadership training, it wasn't that it was entrepreneurial, but it was something that I enjoyed doing. So I don't really have a network of really true entrepreneurs. I didn't at the time when I made the decision. However, what I did do is I did a very thorough deep dive using a career counselor to figure out what my strengths and weaknesses were and where I should focus my second half of my career. And, along the way, this opportunity was presented to me and it kind of made sense. Just, having the ability to control what I was doing, working with an organization that was already established, working with an organization that had a proven methodology, it skewed a little bit less from entrepreneurial to part of an organization that backed me. But yes, I'm running my own business, but with some support.
Well, still an entrepreneur, still going out on your own, still having to make those calls, still having to make those connections and those sales. So it is a commendable step that is not necessarily a golden path forward. So it's been a shift,
but it's been fun.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Deane, would you have, as we kind of wrap up the interview, would you have any advice to anybody that wants to step out into their entrepreneur journey or making the transition, or in your journey?
I do actually. So, like I said, I took a long time to figure out, what my marketable skills were, what I like to do, where I wanted to focus, and that takes time. So you really want to understand that about yourself. 1, 2, financially, you need to understand that you're taking you're rolling dice. So you need the plan. And I did that. I spoke to my financial advisor up front, told him what I wanted to do. And then he said, yep, you should be fine. Go for it. You're going to have to make money, of course, but you need to know the financial implications first and prepare. And thirdly, I did a lot of research once I decided to go down this executive coaching route. I have people that I've worked with in my network that have opened their own consulting type businesses. So I called them and I interviewed them. Okay. And they gave me a lot of really good pointers. Everyone had a different story. But the 2 things that I got out of that, one is it's going to take twice as long as you expect. And 2, you need to find the right pools to swim in. So you need to find those qualified clients, and that should be your priority. So those are the 2 main pieces of advice I got from people in my network that opened up their own consulting business.
Right. I think those are 2 great pieces of advice for our listeners if they're thinking about venturing into starting their own business. And business.
Do your homework, interview people, prepare financially, and go for it.
Yep. Go for it and do what you're passionate about, because if you're passionate about it, then you will work. You do have to work, but you at least have some vigor to do that. So absolutely. Well, Deane, where can our audience find you if they need your services?
Sure. I have a website. You could just probably Google my name and intelligentleadership.com, but my email is, you're going to have to write this down because it's kind of long. It's D Gyllenhaal, my last name, Gyllenhaal at intelligentleadershipec.com. And the EC at the end stands for executive coaching. So D Gyllenhaal at intelligentleadershipec.com is my email.
Great. And we'll make sure that that's included in the program notes so we all know how to get a hold of you if we need to.
And you can find me on LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn, that's where we connected. So
that's right.
We
Great
swim
tool.
in the same pools there. So that was yes, it is a great tool. Yes, Deane, it was great to hear your story today, to hear your advice today. You have such a vast experience, and it's an inspiration to me, and I know it's an inspiration to others to be able to think about their expertise in a different way and to what's marketable for your skills and to think about shifting the career. And you can do it. Just be prepared to do that. So.
Correct. Shelby Joe, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was great.
Well, thank you, Deane. I'm looking forward to our future interactions. And I will just say, the next time, let's introduce you to another entrepreneur to our audience that has created a business out of their genius to influence the world market in a different way. We'll see you next time.
Great. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Culture, Communication, and Brand Moments with your host, Shelby Joe Long. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we will see you on the next episode.